From the today's class, we are entering into a new module which is a multi-degree of freedom systems vibration, and in that we are starting with a 2D of system first. Okay, so I had given you one example problem in your tutorial session, okay, which was something like this. There was a bar, and that bar was hinged over here at certain location, and then it was having spring supports at the end, right? So this was a single degree of freedom system. This bar was rotating about this hinge, and that was the degree of freedom that we were considering. Now I am giving you another example over here, which is a slight variation of this, but that is a 2 degree of freedom system. So we are again considering the same bar, okay, which is having m units of weight, and it is again supported on the springs at the two ends. However, only thing that I am kind of getting rid of is this hinge joint, which was over here, and this joint I'm not applying over here. Now since that joint is not present over here, now this bar has got 2 degrees of freedom. What does it mean? What do you mean by it has got 2 degrees of freedom? So it means that in order to completely explain the displacement of this bar, you need displacements at any two locations. Okay, so any two displacement informations are required. Okay, so which can be, let's say, x1. So let this be the mean. Okay, so x1, which will be the displacement at this point, and x2 will be the displacement at this point. However, this need not be the only choice of set of displacements that you are supposed to give. Okay, you can rather pick a point. Let's say this is the point, the same point where there was this hinge over here, and let's say that that is the point where center of mass of the system is, or center of gravity of the system is, CG, is located. Now if CG is over there, then what I can say is that I can give x at that CG and theta at that CG. Okay, obviously you need not only specify at CG, you could have specified this the same set of displacement and theta at this location, at any other location, okay, at any generic location. So which essentially means that any two displacements need not be only translational displacement, you can even give rotational displacement or rotational degree of freedom as the input. Okay, so any two displacement inputs are required to completely specify the displacement of this bar, okay, which is the system. So in order to completely define the system's displacement, you need two displacement inputs. Okay, similarly, so in order to completely define the velocity profile of this entire system, you will require two velocity inputs. Okay, so you will require x1 and x2 in order to completely define x. Okay, so you can define x at any other location in that bar. Similarly, you will require x1 dot and x2 dot in order to define velocity at any other location in the bar. Similarly, you will require two acceleration inputs as well to completely define acceleration at any location in the bar. Okay, so that's why this system is a 2 degree of freedom system. So for 2 degree of freedom system, what you need is, you need two displacement inputs. Okay, you can choose any two displacement inputs. Okay, so it need not be only x1 and x2, it can be x and theta, or it can be any other displacement at any other location and theta. Okay, so you can pick any two set of displacement inputs and define the system completely. Okay, obviously there are certain rules which one to pick, but however we are not going to go into that details in this particular course. But let's for timing say that we can pick any two displacements. Okay, however that's not completely true. There are certain underlying guidelines which doesn't fall in purview of this particular course, so we are not going to talk about that. However, we'll say that we need two displacement inputs, and that's why it is a 2 degree of freedom system. Okay, now our job is to derive the equation of motion for this 2 degree of freedom system. Okay, so let's try to do that. So what we'll be doing is, so as we have been doing that, we'll be drawing a free body diagram of this particular system. And in order to draw the free body diagram, obviously I am taking this spring 1, let this be having stiffness k1, and let the stiffness of other spring be equal to k2. Okay, so since it is k1 and k2, so let me call that this is spring force which is coming because of spring 1, and this is the spring force which is coming because of spring 2. So total force, okay, in the translational direction which is coming on the system is equal to that will be equal to Fs1 plus Fs2, okay, which will be equal to minus k1 x1 minus k2 x2, since k1 and k2 are the stiffnesses of the two springs. Therefore, if I say that mx double dot is the inertial force, where x double dot is the acceleration measured at cg, this is cg, okay, then obviously the translational force, total translational force, okay, that which is this one, and it is unbalanced, so that should give rise to this much amount of acceleration of the cg in the translational direction, and that acceleration times m, which is the inertial force, that should come out to be equal to minus, this is minus of inertial force obviously, so it should come out to be equal to minus of k1 x1 minus k2 x2. Okay, if you take these two on the other side, then you will be left with mx double dot plus k1 x1 plus k2 x2 equal to 0. Let me name this equation as 1. Okay, so we have derived one equation, okay, which we have derived based on force equilibrium in the translational direction at the cg. Okay, so but this is not the only force which is acting onto it, right? So there will be torque also acting, because cg is somewhere over here, and these forces which are spring forces, they are not in line with that. Okay, so that's why there will be certain torque which will be acting because of this force Fs1, similarly because of this force Fs2. So we'll try to see to it that how much unbalanced torque is there. Okay, so in order to find out that unbalanced torque, what I'll be doing is I'll be saying that okay, so let me first of all say that this distance is equal to a and this distance is equal to b. Okay. We are considering theta positive always in this direction, which is the anti-clockwise direction. So obviously all torques or moments which are coming in the direction which are in the anti-clockwise direction, those will be positive. Okay, therefore Fs2, whatever will be the torque which will be caused by this spring force Fs2, that will be positive. So I'll be writing that first, which will be Fs2 times b minus Fs1 times a, which is equal to minus k2 x2b plus k1 x1a, which tells me that I theta double dot, where I is moment of inertia about this point. Okay, so at this point and about this axis which is this one. Okay, so this I theta double dot is equal to minus k2 x2b plus k1 x1a, which tells me that I theta double dot plus k2 x2b minus k1 x1a equal to 0. This is equation number 2. Okay. Further, from the geometry, I can write down x1 and x2 in terms of x and theta, or I can also write down x and theta in terms of x1 and x2. So if I replace x1 and x2 by x and theta, then I'll get set of two equations which will be in terms of x and theta. If I replace x and theta in terms of x1 and x2, then I'll get set of equations in terms of x1 and x2. What we are going to do is we are going to go by the both ways, and we are going to see what exactly we are getting. Okay, so let's try to have a look at the geometry. Okay, so if this bar is like this, okay, so let's say that this end moves by x1 and this end moves by x2, right? Then this is somewhere CG is, right? This is x1, this is x2. So how much CG has moved? It has moved by x, and at the same time this is the rotation theta, right, which is the same theta, this theta, right? So This is A, this is B, and let me say that this entire distance is equal to L. If it is so, then obviously I can write down that x, which is at this location, that is equal to x1 plus a theta, right? So which will give me what is value of x. Okay, so let me write down x1 in terms of a and or let it be like this only as of now for time being. Similarly, I can write down x2 as x1 plus L theta, right? So what I get is, okay, so let's try to go ahead in this way. Let's try to write down equations in terms of x1 and x2 first, because that is something that we have started with. Okay, so let's try to get rid of x and theta. Okay, so if you want to get rid of x and theta, then we need to write down x in terms of x1 and x2, and we need to write down theta also in terms of x1 and x2. Okay, so if you do so, then what you get is this. Okay, so let me try to do it for you. Okay, so let me write down x1 as x minus a theta. Okay, and from this one, okay, I know that x2 minus x1 is equal to L theta. So theta is equal to x2 minus x1 divided by L. If I put this value of theta in this equation, okay, then I get x1 as x minus x2 minus x1 theta over L. Or I should have rather done it in the other way. Okay, so this is of no use. Okay, so I'll directly go over here. So if I do so, if I replace theta here appearing over here by this expression, then I'll get x as x1 plus a times x2 minus x1 divided by L, which gives me that x is equal to x1 into 1 minus a by L plus a by L into x2, which is equal to 1 minus a by L is b by L x1 plus a by L x2. So now I have x in terms of x1 and x2, and I also have theta in terms of x1 and x2. Let me rewrite those expressions over here for you. Okay, once again. So or otherwise I'll write it over here. So we have x, which is equal to b by L x1 plus a by L x2, and theta is equal to x2 minus x1 by L. Okay, so which essentially means that x double dot, that will be equal to b by L x1 double dot plus a by L x2 double dot, and theta double dot will be equal to 1 over L x, just let me check it out if it is right. Yes, it is right. So theta double dot will be equal to 1 over L x2 double dot minus 1 over L x1 double dot. Okay, so now what we'll be doing is we'll be putting these values of x1 double dot and theta x double dot and theta double dot in our initial expressions, which we have derived based on force and torque balance, and these are the equations, equation number 1 and equation number 2. Okay, so let me write down those equations over here once again for you. So equation number 1 was like this: mx double dot plus k1 x1 plus k2 x2 was equal to 0. Was it the same one? Yes, it was the same one. And the other one is this. which is I theta double dot plus K2B x2 minus K1A x1. Okay, the other equation is I theta double dot plus K2B x2 minus K1A x1 equal to 0. Okay. Now what I'll be doing is I'll be putting these values of x double dot and theta double dot in this one. Now if I do so, then I get this. So which is mb x1 double dot by L plus m a by L into x2 double dot plus k1 x1 plus k2 x2 equal to 0. This is equation number 1. And equation number 2 tells us that I by L x2 double dot minus I by L x1 double dot plus k2b x2 minus k1a x1 equal to 0. Now I can arrange these two equations in a matrix form in this particular fashion, okay, where I'll be writing down this vector as x1 double dot and theta, sorry, it's not theta, now there is no any theta over here, it's x2 double dot plus something into x1 x2 and that whole system is equal to 0 0. Okay, now let's try to populate these two matrices. Okay, this is the matrix which is pre-multiplying this vector, which is an acceleration vector, and that acceleration vector, if I have to write down pre-multiplier for that, then I'll be ending up with this one, which will be equal to mb by L ma by L over here, which is coming from this term. Now I have to see what comes over here, which is this term, which is equal to minus I over L, and this comes over here, which is I over L. So we are done with populating this matrix. Now we are populating the other matrix, which is pre-multiplying displacement vector, which is the vector containing x1 and x2. This is the acceleration vector, this is the displacement vector. Okay, so let me write down that vector. So where you get k1 here and k2 here, and in this one you have minus k1a, and here you have k2b. Okay. Now this is pretty weird set of equations that we have obtained. However, we'll simplify it even further. Okay, but before we go and simplify it, let's try to have a look at what we have obtained. Okay, so as I just now told you that this vector is acceleration vector and this vector is displacement vector. So obviously this is the matrix which is pre-multiplying this displacement vector should be a stiffness matrix, something equivalent to stiffness matrix, and this should be something which is equivalent to a mass matrix, right? So which is so if you compare it with our typical equation of single degree of freedom system, which was like this, mx double dot plus kx equal to 0. Rather than that, what you have over here is that you have m, which is a matrix capital M, and x double dot, which is again acceleration vector. Here you had single acceleration variable appearing over here. Here you have a vector which has got two acceleration entities sitting over there, which are x1 double dot and x2 double dot. Similarly, you have this matrix which is a stiffness matrix, and then you have a vector which is a displacement vector, and here you have externally applied forces which are 0. Okay, so we don't have externally applied force onto it, that's why it is 0. Okay, so which is exactly analogous to what we have seen over here in the single degree of freedom system. Only thing is that rather than having single variables which were appearing over there, we are having a set of variables which are now unknowns to us. Okay, earlier we were trying to find out only a single unknown variable which was x. Now we'll be finding out a set of unknown variables, and that set is what is this, okay, that we are trying to find out, capital X. Okay, and derivatives of this we arrange again in the matrix form, in a vector form. So you get x dot which is the velocity vector, and x double dot which is the acceleration vector, and acceleration vector is taking part in this differential equation. Velocity vector also would have taken part if there would have been any damping included, but we don't have any damping force included. That's why we have only acceleration vector taking part in the differential equation together with the this displacement vector. And a matrix which is pre-multiplying this displacement vector is a stiffness matrix, and a matrix which is pre-multiplying this acceleration vector is a mass matrix. So that's why this particular matrix is a mass matrix, and this particular matrix is a stiffness matrix. Okay, so you have obtained stiffness matrix for the system, and you have also obtained a mass matrix for the system. And now you are able to see to it that this particular these two equations, so this set is actually what, this set is nothing but these are two equations, so we have arranged them in this matrix form. Okay, so this matrix form is no different than what two equations we have obtained over here. Okay, so these two equations that we have obtained here, we have just rewritten them in this matrix form. Okay, so what does this matrix form tells us? That this tells us that the two equations that we are having, they are coupled equations. That is, in this first equation, x2 is taking part along with x1. Similarly, in the second equation also, along with x2, x1 is also taking part. And why it is taking part? Because these off diagonal terms which are over there in the stiffness and mass matrix, okay, so these are the off diagonal terms of the mass matrix, and these are the off diagonal terms of the stiffness matrix. Had these terms been zeros, okay, then you would not have obtained any coupling between x1 and x2. Then this equation would have been solely dependent on x1, and this equation would have been solely dependent on x2. However, that is something which is not happening right now, because these are not zeros, and certain values are sitting over, non-zero values are sitting over here, which are responsible for coupling between x1 and x2. Similarly, we are having some certain few things sitting over here in the mass matrix, which is responsible for coupling between x1 double dot and x2 double dot. When you have coupling between x1 and x2, we call it as static coupling or displacement coupling or stiffness coupling. That is, the stiffnesses are coupled. Okay, stiffness matrix is having non-diagonal terms as non-zeros. Off diagonal terms are non-zeros. So stiffnesses are coupled, which essentially means that stiffness which is responsible for any resistance in offering displacement at this location x1, that is also responsible to give certain stiffness for the displacement at the other location, which is this location number 2. Okay, so these coupling terms are coming over here in the off diagonal places, and these are non-zeros, which tells us that stiffness matrix is coupled. That is called as a static coupling. Whereas these off diagonal terms which are coming over here at the mass matrix, they are coupling acceleration terms. Okay, so which essentially means that acceleration in this at this particular location, okay, in this particular coordinate, that is responsible for giving rise to certain inertial force even at this location x2. Okay, so inertial force at location number 1 is giving rise to certain inertial force at location number 2. This is inertial coupling. Okay, this is stiffness coupling, what you see over here. So this inertial coupling is also termed as a dynamic coupling, because it is taking care of coupling between two terms which are time derivatives. Okay, and hence that is called as a dynamic coupling, whereas this coupling, which is coupling between K2, that is this off diagonal terms of the stiffness matrices, non-zero off diagonal terms of stiffness matrices, or coupling between x1 and x2. So that is called as a static coupling. So for the chosen set of displacements, that is for x1 and x2, we get to see that mass matrix is coupled as well as stiffness matrix is coupled. However, I'll show you just now that if you happen to choose x and theta as your choice of variables, then you don't get acceleration coupling. That is, mass matrix inertial coupling is not there, dynamic coupling is not there. So accelerations are not coupled in that case. However, displacements will still be coupled. We'll be able to see to it. Okay, so we have these equations that we have arrived at: mx double dot plus k1 x1 plus k2 x2 equal to 0, which was equation number 1, and equation number 2 was like this. It was I theta double dot plus k2 b x2 minus k1 a x1 equal to 0. Okay, now what you have to do is, now you have to replace x1 and x2 by x and theta. Okay, so for that you will again be using that relationship. Okay, so whatever that we have just now derived. Okay, so this one and this one. Okay, so use these two equations to get rid of x1 and x2 and write down everything in terms of x and theta, and then if you substitute expressions of x2 and x1 in terms of x and theta, then you will be able to see to it that the set of equations that you get is like this: mx double dot plus k1 times x minus L, this will be capital L theta, plus k2 times x plus capital L theta equal to 0, and you have I theta double dot then that will be equal to plus k2 into this you will be able to write down in this fashion. Yeah, you have b appearing over here, so b is here, and then x2 is this one, which is x plus L theta, and you have k1a into x minus L theta equal to 0. So these are two equations when you are writing down in terms of x and theta rather than x1 and x2. We have just now seen in the previous case when when we chosen this set of two displacements. However, now we are choosing this set, okay, that is x and theta. Now we can rearrange again these two equations in matrix form like this. Okay, so let me have a matrix which I'll be populating, elements of which I'll be populating very soon. Okay, so let me write down it will be x double dot, this is acceleration vector, okay, where you have x double dot and theta double dot. Now other displacement is this theta double dot, which is actually the rotation. Okay, so it's not the translation, we have one translation and one rotation. Okay, you can pick it that way, and the other one will be the stiffness matrix, and here you have x and theta coming over here into picture, and that should be equal to 0 0. So let's try to populate this matrix, which is a mass matrix because it is pre-multiplying this acceleration vector, and let's try to see what kind of coupling we get to see over here between these two acceleration quantities. Okay, so we have m appearing in this first equation. So is there any term which is theta double dot in this equation? No, there is no any term which is having theta double dot variable appearing over there. So obviously I'll be putting 0 over here. So contribution of theta double dot in this equation is 0. Similarly, contribution of x double dot in this equation is 0. X double dot is not contributing in this equation. So there is no any contributor over here. Okay. And then we have this term sitting over here I. Okay, so this is these two terms are 0. Okay, so this is obviously the decoupled case of acceleration. So accelerations are not coupled over here. Okay, so at least this set of terms is decoupled. So let's try to see what happens over here in the stiffness part. Okay, so for that stiffness part, let me try to populate that. So we'll be left with so let's try to see what is the contribution coming from x in this equation. Okay, so we have k1, and from this one we'll have k2 plus k2. Then what is the contribution of theta? We have k2 theta minus, sorry, it's k2 L minus k1L. Is this right? It should be, if I'm not wrong, I should have written, this is wrong. It's A here, it's B here, it's B here, it's A here. Yes, now it's perfect. Okay, so so it is k2b minus k1a, and here again you have k2b minus k1a. Here you get to see what is the contribution of theta. You have k2b square plus k1a square. Okay, so this is the term. Okay, this is another term. So off diagonal terms, which are these two terms, okay, they are non-zero. Okay, which essentially means that there exists coupling between x and theta, and there is no any coupling between x double dot and theta double dot. So this is the typical case of static coupling, because these quantities which are the time derivatives, they are decoupled. However, these quantities which are the displacements, okay, so primary variables, they are coupled. Okay, and that coupling is through this k2b minus k1a. However, again, you can choose a case where k2b is equivalent to k1a. Okay, what does it mean? k2b is equivalent to k1a. So you have cg over here, which is a units away from here, and this is b. So this is k1 and this is k2. So k2b, which, so let's say if you input x2 equal to 1 units, okay, then what is the torque that you will get? That will be equal to k2b. And what is the torque that you will get if k1 if x1 is equal to 1? Because of the spring, that will be equal to k1a. And if these two torques are identical, that is if k2b is equal to k1a, then obviously you are not getting any coupling. Okay, so if you choose this spring stiffnesses in such a way that k1a happens to be equal to k2b, then there is no coupling at all. These mass this mass matrix is anyway decoupled, because it has no any non-zero term sitting over here at the off diagonal places. And if you happen to choose k2b equal to k1a, then these off diagonal terms in the stiffness matrix will also go, and you will be left with only this one diagonal terms. Okay, so only diagonal terms will be left with, and you will get to see something like this: m0 0, and this will be I, it's x double dot theta double dot, and then you will get this k1 plus k2 0 0, and you have k1a square plus k2b square into x theta equal to 0 0. Okay, this is a set of decoupled equations. Okay, so you have two different equations which are having no relationship with each other. So whatever be the value of x, it is having no any influence in determining theta, which means that if you happen to give certain displacement at CG in the translatory direction, there will not be any rotation cost because of that. Okay, there will not be any inertial coupling as well. Okay, there is no any coupling in the displacement level as well as at the acceleration level. Neither acceleration is coupled nor displacements are coupled. Okay, so there is no any static coupling, there is no any dynamic coupling. So x and theta are completely indifferent to each other. So you can treat these as two different single degree of freedom systems and solve those different single degree of freedom systems in the typical way as we have been doing so far. Okay, and however in the present case, what we are, when these two terms are not identical, then what we see is we are having a coupled set. Okay, now this form which we have just now arrived at, okay, this is a very typical form, and what we are going to do is we are going to revisit this form in the next class, and we are going to have a look at how do we solve it. Okay, so we will stop over here for this particular session, and we'll be again discussing, again opening this, and we are going to see a very typical nature of this 2 degree of freedom system and how do we solve that. Okay, thank you so much.